Robert says, I love horses and have no objection to flat racing, but the Grand National is the ultimate in cruelty with the height and width of fences and the length of the race. I used to watch it, but I no longer do. That is the big debate. And finally, on the protests going on in London today, several protests. One Palestine Peace March and one Israel march as well. Barry says, isn't it time these marches were banned after months of weekly protests? That's the Palestinian priest one, costing the Met £30 million so far and taking the police away from fighting crime. And a lot of you are echoing those sentiments. And they go on every week, it costs more money, and no one appears to be doing anything about it, what they want, do they? Right, OK, well, it is the last day of the Grand National today, as one of the most anticipated horse racing events of the year comes to a climatic end this afternoon. Now, if you remember rightly, last year's race was delayed by a protest from the Animal Rising group, with the famous steeplechase starting nearly 15 minutes late after the people invaded the track. But this year, it's different. They say they will not target this year's race, with a spokesman saying, is disrupting races going to be the most effective way to end horse racing? We think not, because we think the public has already made the decision for themselves. OK, well, joining me now to explain this decision further is Animal Rising activist Orla. Orla, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Good to see you. Orla, you're not targeted. You were part of the protest last year. You're not targeting the race this year, and you say because horse racing is not going to be affected by your protest and that it's not as popular, but it is still making millions of pounds for the economy. And as we see, 80,000 people at Aintree today, it does seem to be as popular as ever.
Hi, Dawn. Thanks so much for having me. We know from our protest last year that the popularity of horse racing is in serious decline. We saw after the race, after Hill 16 died on that first jump last year, that the YouGov poll has shown that 54% of the general public think that the sport is cruel. And so we're really seeing this shift in public opinion. And after we started this big public conversation last year, that conversation is continuing, and the general public are aware of what's going on.
So, Orla, I mean, basically, what do Animal Rising want? Do they want that horse racing just stops completely?
So we're a group of people who care very much about animals, and we think that the general public in the UK also care a lot about animals. So what we think we should do is to really seriously consider that relationship. And if there's a way that we can have animals in the UK, have horses, have animals in our food system, and treat them with respect and treat them with the love that they deserve.
Orla, what would you say to the charge that if you do achieve getting rid of horse racing in general, you will drive it underground and therefore it becomes much more dangerous for the animals involved?
I don't think this is true at all. I think we can, have a ban on horse racing, and I think we can move away from the sport completely. I think that in the UK at the moment, we have almost no wild horses, and that's something that, we could bring back. We could have a completely different relationship with animals. We could, bring them back into wild spaces, and that's a way that the general public could really engage with animals and see them in their natural habitat.
And we do know that statistically more horses are killed, not in the racing industry. They're killed naturally in their own paddocks and things like that. So, I mean, what's your answer to that one?
I'm afraid that's not statistically accurate. I would hope that more horses die in their natural habitats than they do in that 30 seconds of a race. But we know that a horse is dying every other day on the British tracks. And we saw, tragically, 2 horses die yesterday. And this is despite, the massive publicity stunts that the racing industry are putting on as a show to try and divert the public's attention. But I think it's becoming incredibly clear.
And so what do you think, I mean, if you did get your wish and we stopped horse racing, both the flat, are you happy with the flat racing, or is that something that's a problem as well?
Well, unfortunately, that statistic of a horse dying every other day on the British tracks is also on flat racing. The horses do die on the flat as well, less so. So I imagine this ban will start with jump racing, but eventually it will also encompass flat racing.
OK. And what would happen to the horses that do take part, highly trained horses? What would happen to the horses if we did stop racing them? I mean, surely they would be euthanised in some way because they're not suitable to, as you say, be wild animals or be pets.
Well, this is a billion-pound industry, Dawn. So I really hope that these trainers who have this money have bred these horses and are able to give them lifelong care. If they're not, I would be incredibly shocked.
As you say, Orla, it is a very, very rich industry. There is a lot of money. There's a lot of money going to the bookies this afternoon at Aintree itself. But it also develops a lot of money for the tax industry, the tax system in this country, and it employs a lot of people. What would you say to the people involved in the actual industry? They're all going to lose their jobs. We lose an awful lot of tax revenue.
Yeah, I think this is the incredibly difficult conversation that we need to start having, is how we can support these people into other industries. And we do know that this is, a multi-billion-pound industry. So I would hope that the industry would be able to support people who are employed in this transition and not leave them flat on their backs.
OK, that's animal rising activist Orla Coughlin. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Orla. What do you think about that? I mean, is horse riding cruel? Should we just ban it completely? Let me know. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News Saturday, and there's lots more coming up on today's show. Now, showbiz. Amanda Holden unleashes